Today on the TMZ Podcast.
Welcome to the TMZ Podcast, Jason and Jaime. So Don Lemon, Jaime, has issued an apology for sort of brazenly sexist comments he made on air yesterday. What's going on with this guy?
He is insufferable, and his apology was insufferable. If you didn't hear it, let's take a listen to what he said.
This whole talk about age makes me uncomfortable. I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
That's not according to me.
Prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. Oh, I got another.
I'm not saying
decade.
I agree with that. So I think she has to be careful about saying that politicians aren't in their prime.
We need to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?
What the facts are. Google it.
So this is all stemming off of her saying that she wants mandatory.
Nikki Haley.
Nikki Haley wants mandatory mental competency tests for politicians over 75. And that's not just directed at Biden. It would also apply to Trump.
Well, Nikki Haley is a Republican politician from South Carolina. She has announced that she's running for president. She's very well thought of in Republican circles and very smart. She's 51 years old. And because there's so much Republican criticism of Biden's mental fortitude, she's making this comment about Biden. Now, she didn't limit it to Biden. She's calling it for Trump, too, who's now her political opponent because she's running for president. And so she's calling for these mental competencies tests for people over 75. Fine. Don Lemon decides that this is absurd because women are in their primes in their 20s and 30s. But I think what he's saying is they're not as hot anymore in their 50s. They're not as bright.
That's my problem. If he just said, well, Nikki Haley's not in her prime, I would have even been okay with that because that can mean a lot of things. But then he just doubled down. And he said, Google it, and it says 20s, 30s, 40s, to which the anchor he's speaking to says, are we talking about childbearing prime? Like, what are we talking about?
It's such an unbelievably sexist comment because what are we talking? Clearly, he is echoing what is points about when women are the hottest.
Yes.
And saying women are in their prime in their 20s and 30s. Nobody would ever suggest that a politician, regardless of gender, is in their prime in their 20s and 30s. That's absurd.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, Nikki Haley, 51, is in her prime when it comes to sort of intellectual abilities, right? And so it's such an absurd comment. But so yesterday, when this comes out, he digs in his heels. You can kind of tell if you watch it, if you're watching that live, that soundbite that we just had, that he knows he's on really thin ice and he can't quite figure out how to maneuver his way out of it. So he kind of digs in. We've all made mistakes and we're afraid to back off right away. So he kind of digs in. So then there's a staff call scheduled for, I guess, this morning. And he decides that he's going to crash the staff call to apologize for what he said yesterday on the air. And he said, and then he referenced it in a tweet as well. You want to read the tweet at the bottom here?
Yes, he said, the reference I made to a woman's prime this morning was inartful and irrelevant, as colleagues and loved ones have pointed out, and I regret it. A woman's age doesn't define her either personally or professionally. I have countless women in my life who prove that every day. So some of my best friends are ladies.
A woman's age doesn't define her either personally or professionally.
Which is, first
of all... But then I want to know, what were you talking about?
That's what also pisses me off, because of course it does, and it sucks.
Yeah.
Of course a woman's age defines her personally and professionally, as you showed yesterday by saying that comment and truly believing it.
Right.
Listen, as a straight white woman, I don't have a lot of battles. But at the end of the day, the age thing is always something that even my best guy friends will tease. And they've been doing it since I've been 25 years old. Well, you're not 24. Well, you're not. You know what I mean?
Like,
so it's a very real thing. And it just was so stupid. And then the apology is just so pretentious and gross, an inartful thing to say. Like,
inartful, right. You've got to, I want more sword falling.
Yeah.
If you're going to say something so just obtuse and stupid.
It was odd. It was almost like her comment about the competency test like struck such a chord that he just lashed out. It was odd for him. It was almost like he took it super personally.
Yeah, and let's go back to Nikki Haley's comment for a second.
I am fully in support of that.
I don't even know what it means, and you can't really force that on anybody. And like, look, your guy Donald Trump, who you really wanted, wouldn't release his tax returns and wouldn't release a real doctor's a physical.
Yeah.
He wouldn't even release those results, no less mental competency, right? So
and it is so
stuff.
subjective that I don't know how you could
Right, what are you looking for? Putting
Yeah.
all that aside.
Maybe a driver's test.
Yeah, right.
There you go. Just get in the car.
Good God. Putting all of that aside for a second, there is something to the fact that Joe Biden is old and doddering. And
you can say the same for Trump, so it's for both.
I have no problem. I don't, theoretically, I don't have a problem with what Nikki Haley said. It was politically charged. It was against her. It sort of tried to cast her opponents as old. All that stuff, it's political, but fine.
But it was still said in a very tasteful way. Like, it wasn't, the Trumpian way of like, well, this person's stupid and old. She didn't name names. She didn't. Yeah. We all know it was a wink, but like, so what?
Right. I agree. It was handled like a politician. A little bit scummy, but at the end of the day, fine.
Yeah.
For him to come back and say that she, how old's Nikki Haley? She's 51. Well, she's not in her prime anymore. You when that comes out and he said it, you've got to at that point fall down on your sword and saying, not just I said something that was inartful. Inartful is a world away from what he did. This is full on sexist sort of, I don't know, what is it, bait?
I guess, and it makes
sexist?
me mad because here I am wanting to be nasty. Mr. Don Lemon, you are 56, demoted from your primetime show now in the morning.
Literally not in his prime.
Not in your prime, so I don't know what you're talking about.
So Don Lemon, I have to tell you, I've been puzzled for years and years how Don Lemon maintains his job at CNN. CNN, just so everybody knows, their ratings are awful, well below Fox News, well below MSNBC. Mm-hmm. So even on the liberal bent, they get destroyed by MSNBC. Don Lemon's ratings are horrible. And if you watch him, I've never met anybody, and I talk to people about cable news and things like that. I've never met anybody who's a huge Don Lemon fan.
No. And it makes me mad that he thinks he's the voice for the Democratic Party.
Yeah, really.
That when Nikki Haley's talking back and she's like, well, the liberals, it was Don Lemon. Like,
right.
Forget us. Like,
how does he? So I can ask this question again that I've been asking for the last 15 years. How does Don Lemon still have a job after this? This is such an awful, spiteful comment.
Well, it's early. It's about 7:30 as we're recording this, so we shall see where the day goes. But what do you think? Do you think they let it go? Do you think
only because they've never gotten rid of him forever. I can't imagine. I mean, I would think this is the final straw, but. Where's the straw been piling up? I mean, I guess they demoted him from his primetime slot. CNN is the most bizarre network to me. Wolf Blitzer is still on the air at age like 50 in year 52 of his reign at CNN.
You were gonna say 50. I was like, wow. Okay.
No, I don't care how old he is. As a matter of fact, I like my news people sort of more seasoned. But nevertheless, like he's been on the air forever, and his ratings are horrible.
But I think
he comes third in his time slot on cable news every single day. He's terrible.
I think it's going to be the internal demise then. I think if he pissed off enough people inside, it's over.
The question you have is, have they been looking for a reason to get rid of Don Lemon all along, and they finally had it? Don Lemon is a black gay man. It can be maybe they were intimidated out of making this decision, or based on they didn't want the perception that they were targeting their only black gay journalist. Mm-hmm. I don't know that. It's the only one, but the only one I know of, certainly the most famous. Maybe so this gives them a cover. Maybe they really do like him. Maybe he does bring an audience to CNN that nobody else can bring. I find that hard to believe given the numbers, but I don't know why he's been there that long, and I cannot believe that he would survive this. It's such an easy opportunity to get rid of Don Lemon.
And it's a Friday.
And it's a Friday.
I feel like they get rid of people on Fridays.
And I think that Don Lemon is terrified that he's going to lose his gig.
He should be.
So let's switch gears here. Paris Hilton, she came out and she said to Harper's Bazaar that she thought that she was asexual before she met her husband, Carter Room.
Yep.
Room. What do you make of Paris' comments?
This is the least shocking thing I've ever heard. There is a big difference between, first of all, let's keep in mind, everything Paris Hilton has ever done in her entire life is contrived. There is not anything that is authentic or spur of the moment. Everything is thought through. Everything is planned. So even though she was a, quote, sex symbol, there was never an ounce of sexual energy I got from her.
Yeah.
Yes, she would walk around barely dressed, but
she was sexy.
She was sexy as
because she's beautiful and wore little clothing.
On paper.
Yeah.
Yes, but like think of somebody like Sofia Vergara. I've probably never even seen her belly in a crop top, and somebody like that just like oozes sex.
Yeah.
So for me to look back and be like, oh, she didn't really feel this way, because I 1,000% believe her if she says that she felt asexual, and to me that makes sense. That just because you played the part, it always felt a little fake.
Yeah. She says, I was known as a sex symbol, but anything sexual terrified me. I called myself the kissing bandit because I only liked to make out. A lot of my relationships didn't work out because of that. She said, it wasn't until Carter that I finally am not that way. I enjoy hooking up with my husband. So that's cute.
I do love the term hooking up with my husband.
You can just see her. Actually, I want to look up the term asexual because I don't know that I know, because to me, asexual means that you
are just an amoeba.
Yeah. Okay. So it does mean experiencing no sexual attraction to anyone. So I guess it's what she's saying. I think what she's saying is I didn't like sex. And I don't know if that's asexual, but I think she
might mean the attraction thing, though, because as I was saying, everything is playing a part. It was what handsome man is on my arm. Paris Hilton's never dated somebody that was kind of ugly but funny, and you're like, oh, I get it. They probably have a great time together.
Yeah.
Everybody has been perfectly cast, whether it was Paris Latsis, the first fiance who was an oil heir, and it was like, of course, the heiress and the heir, and they're both named Paris. What a story.
Who was the Greek guy?
That was Paris Latsis.
Oh, okay.
So then she dated Stavros Niarchos.
That's who I was
They did
thinking.
not get engaged, though.
Got it.
So which also has to hurt because she has been not only in many famous relationships, she's been engaged 3 times. So it doesn't feel nice, I would imagine, waking up today knowing that your ex thought she was asexual.
Well, I have a feeling that all of these exes, if Paris is, I assume she's telling the truth here. If you're one of these exes, you're like, yeah, no shit.
That's so true that maybe some of them are like, no, we never had sex.
I mean, she said I had a lot of relationships where I was called the kissing bandit because I just like to kiss. She just wasn't sexual, and I'm sure all these guys who are like, oh my God, I have Paris Hilton. She's so beautiful, she's so hot, but she won't do anything with me.
Yeah.
Now you're like, okay, it wasn't just me, and she just had a thing.
Yeah.
And now she's found her groove.
Yeah, and it is so not surprising to me. Being Paris Hilton is a full-time job.
Yeah.
We've never gotten a photo of her going to the grocery store without every hair in place.
Yeah.
It is such a role. It's such good for her.
But you can say the same thing with Kim Kardashian, and she clearly.
We have the crying memes. We have, you know what I mean. We've seen she's not a total robot.
Well, we do
now
have,
she has so much money and power that yes, it is.
We do have Paris when she was sent to prison or jail. And her crying when she was sent to jail. Do you remember that?
Yes, of course I remember that.
Yeah,
yes.
that was something.
But that was sad.
It was really sad. It was actually, and she's talked about this, a real turning point for Paris Hilton because people went she was vilified for a long time because she was just this uber rich, careless scion of an enormously wealthy family, and she that did humanize her a little bit, and I actually like Paris Hilton. I mean, she is who she is, right? But she's, to your point, she's very authentic. Like, this is who I am, and I make no apologies for it. And she did that reality show with Nicole Richie,
the best,
which is The Simple Life, which was one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
Yes,
because
she's hilarious.
It was fully authentic. She she didn't make any bones about who she is, or what she liked and didn't like in life. I really like her. So. Good for her. I mean, it's hard to come out and say these things. She's in her 40s now, I believe.
If not, yes, of course she is.
She's in her 40s now.
Yes.
And, good for her for finding some sexual enjoyment with her husband, I guess.
Hooking up.
She's hooking up.
Hook up this week in Paris.
You ever say, like, I hooked up with my husband?
No, that sounds like you cheated. Like,
that's
you
true.
hooked up with, like, ooh, I got too drunk and I hooked up with my husband. Whoops. Like, that's so weird.
Well, maybe she never hooked up.
But she is obviously, like, sexually stunted, so she's talking like a high schooler.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah.
She may be enjoying it for the first time.
Sure.
Yeah. What if it just opened? No, never mind. Just all of a sudden, she's canvassing.
Oh, man.
She's canvassing OK Cupid for whatever she can. All right, everybody. Thanks very much.